That's right. I mean, I call myself the culture custodian. Maybe that's the ego part, but also I think it probably is apt for what I tend to do normally.
So, what is it that you believe is important about staff culture? And then also, how do you try and champion that? What do you do to try and make it a great place to work?
Yeah, I think the first thing we did was be very articulate about our purpose. I think if you're not clear on what your purpose is, then I think it becomes really difficult to have any sort of culture. And by the way, I do take a little bit of an issue with this idea that culture is all about the nice things,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Um, and I give you a great example. I don't know if you watched the movie Wall Street, with Gordon Gekko,
Yep,
right?
yep, yep.
Um, and he says, money, greed is a good thing, right? And what I love about that is, whether you might disagree with the values of Gordon Gekko and you might disagree with his culture, but what he's got is a very clear value system, and what he's got is a very clear purpose in life, which is about making money and greed. And actually, if you're the kind of person that is attracted to that, you would fit into that, Gordon Gecko system, and so I think often when we talk about culture, I think it's associated as a good thing, right? Because obviously
Hmm.
culture is about being good, but that's not necessarily true. I think culture is about having an identity. Your culture might be, we will work very hard, we will treat you really, really nastily, etc. But you will become a millionaire at the end of this, for example,
Got you.
and that's okay. I mean, it's not for everybody, but it could, that's perfectly reasonable. It's not something that I would ever aspire to, and I wouldn't. You look at what Elon Musk is doing with Twitter right now. It's not something I would aspire to, but there are still hundreds of people wanting to go and work for Elon Musk in a culture that you and me would look at and go, this is just despicable. This is
Hmm.
not the kind of organization you want to create. So I think the most important thing in having a culture is having a clear identity, a value system, and a purpose. And one of the things that me and Mark were really proud of is even before we knew we were going to build financial services software, or even before we knew that, we were going to do mobile apps or whatever, we were very clear on our culture framework. And our culture framework stems from five key things that I kind of stole from, an organizational design company called Novo, and then they had there was a previous version of it. And your culture framework has five things: your purpose. So why do you exist? Why should you exist in this world as an organization? Then you've got your mission and vision. you know so what is your mission? What are you looking to accomplish? What is the difference you're going to make,
Hmm.
to the world and to your customers? Your vision is, what is the kind of world that you see? What kind of world do you want to live in? Like, is this a vision where software takes over the world, etc.? Then clearly you've got your values. What are the things that you believe in? But more importantly, beyond the values, is what are the behaviors that then enable those values? So if you have those five things in a culture framework, which is something that me and Mark wrote down even before we knew what Agile Lab was
Hmm.
and how it would work, then I think we had a bit of a template and a blueprint for how we would run the organization, no matter how many pivots we had to do, whether we had to be an agency. I don't know, in 5 years, Hedgehog Lab, I don't know, might be something different. We might be a SaaS platform. I just don't know.
Hmm.
But that culture framework still dictates the kind of people we want to attract, the type of work we want to do, and the type of, obviously, behaviors and values we want to encourage. So that's what culture means to me, really. It's not necessarily just about the good things. I think it's about having a clear identity and saying, this is what we stand for, this is what we believe in, and these are the kind of things that you will get if you come to this organization.
No, I think it's very cool because a lot of people don't. They just have a generic vanilla. We do this, but then there's no real, because it's how do you articulate why you're different. And what I found really
Mhm.
interesting about Elon Musk, it's how in the run up to him taking over Twitter, everyone was really excited. I believe there was a big surge in the stock price. This will be the best thing of all time because someone we know and like from Tesla and SpaceX will go to a platform that we love, which is Twitter, and do good things. And within the space of a week, maybe 2 weeks, he's hated and everyone wants to leave and they want to set up an advertiser's part. but he's the same man. And he's always been very commercial about how he runs his time. And you see it shared online about his framework for efficiency. There's 6 things that he does. But it's just, it's funny how you've got to wonder, does he regret now buying it because it's losing him $4 million a day and he's trying to turn it around? And the press talk about it all day, every day, about all these layoffs and how he's the devil. But actually, if he's losing $4 million a day, he has to do something. So it's that balance of, people always judge and criticize, but it's different when it's your head on the block. Have you ever had kind of criticism or anyone kind of challenge what you're doing? Or has it always been quite good?
Oh, well, I'm pretty sure. I mean, one of the, I guess, big disadvantages of being the CEO or a co-founder. I mean, more than the CEO, co-founder of a business, it's really difficult for people to challenge you directly, right?
Got you.
I think there is in both a good and bad way, there is a bit of an enigma, a caricature built of a co-founder, a lot larger than I. And obviously, I have to play the part to a certain extent because that is my job, right? Because ultimately, when people look up and they look around and they go like, "Who's in charge here?" Somebody has to be in charge. It can't just be everybody for themselves. Um, so I think in the early years, definitely direct criticism or people disagreeing with me was really, really challenging. Don't get me wrong, people, and I think as time has gone, it's very clear people behind my back and certainly have disagreed with me or criticized me. But what I've really tried to work over the last few years is really encouraging that criticism to be more direct
Yeah.
in terms of what I do. And the reality is, a bit like, and I'm not saying there's any parallels or anything similar, but in example to in a similar way to the point you made about Musk is, if you're doing anything of any importance to whether it's to you or a bunch of people, you're not going to please everybody all of the time. And
No.
actually, if you are, then you're actually not doing something right. And in fact, I would argue that the times I was liked most in this organization universally were times when the organization was performing horribly. Our numbers weren't great, we were losing money, etc. But the culture was great. You see what I mean? And actually, some of the times that where I've been criticized and where people have disagreed with me, have been times when I've had to make difficult decisions that have actually improve things for everybody, good financial
Yep.
numbers, better culture, etc. But it's not something everybody agrees with because as a great example, if you say, look, we're going to have low tolerance for say people who are A players but are a bit of an asshole, if you excuse my French, you know then that's clearly going to piss off people who think they're A players but a bit of assholes. So the reality is, so criticism, I think, is actually a good thing in a business like mine because it means you're doing something important that people care passionately about. Obviously, if I'm being criticized all the time, then I'm doing something terribly wrong. But you can't please all the people all of the time, and I think that's been a real big maturity for me because growing up in an Indian household where it was very important, perception was as important as reality. It was all about how your community, how your peers, how your friends, how your family perceived you. Um, I spent a lot of time in the earliest stage of trying to be liked.
Yeah.
And actually, what I realized as I walked through my journey is that it's more important to be respected than liked. Actually, I'm not, it's not all about making friends. It's about making the right decisions. That means, you've got a sustainable, profitable, growing business where people are looked after, they're paid well, and have opportunities for growth in doing all the interesting things that you expect from a job.